You have in your bulletin the title of this message, No Fear. And as I prayed and kept on working with it, something was added to it. And what was added was faith over fear. So if you just keep both of those in your mind, you'll follow me as we go into this message. No fear. That came to me, and I couldn't remember where that phrase came from. No fear. But I knew I had heard it some years ago. So as any good researcher would do, I went online. And I discovered that no fear was created by a gentleman in 1989 as the movement was coming forward of extreme sports. You know, snowboarding and skiing and all those flips and turns. So they would say as they would go out, no fear. And it meant that even though we may face death, we will not be afraid. We will look even death in the eye and carry out what we're here to do. And that no fear brought me to this passage of scripture that we've been hearing this morning, Psalm 27. What you don't know is that Psalm 27, even though it is, yes, the lectionary, one of the lectionary passages today, it is my favorite passage of scripture. So when I thought about getting in here into this scripture to preach this morning, I said, oh my, I'm going to be out of order because I'm going to go probably, Dr. Mook, beyond my obligatory 12 minutes because this is my scripture. So if you've got to go, if you've got something to do, you can politely tip out because I may take 15 or 20 minutes with this one. No fear. Faith over fear. We are looking today, as we're journeying these 50 days, we are now marking the second Sunday in the Lenten season. As we're looking at ourselves, our world, as we're taking stock of who we are, of where we're going, of how we are operating, how we are living, how we are functioning in this world individually and collectively. And I would say as the people of God, this passage tells us that no matter what, no fear. Faith over fear. The Lord is my light and my salvation. That's an affirmation of faith. No fear. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. A declaration of faith. Of whom shall I be afraid? No fear. The psalmist states her condition in the face even of death. When evildoers assail me to devour my flesh, my adversaries and my foes, they shall stumble and fall. Though an army encamp against me, my heart says what? No fear. Though war rise up against me, yet I will be confident. backed in a corner, personally, professionally, threatened, lied about, insulted publicly, plotted against, walked out on, fired. Well, faith in God, unfortunately, does not spare us from trouble. But faith in God equips us to face trouble with courage and with hope, in spite of our troubles, in spite of what we're going through, in spite of what we're looking at, in spite of what's coming at us. No fear. The psalmist tells us how to respond to it all. Faith over fear. Even though the psalmist is threatened by seemingly deadly forces, the psalmist tells us to live by faith. The opposite of faith is not doubt. The opposite of faith is fear. No fear, church. No fear. The psalmist goes on to say that if I could just get to your house, God, if I can just get into your tent, I'll be all right. If I can just make my way. Have you ever felt like that? If I can just get to church, if I could just make it to the house of the Lord one more time, I know I'll be all right. Things for the psalmist have gotten worse. So bad that there is nowhere else to go but into the presence of God. Another psalm says, God will hide me in God's shelter in the day of trouble. For those of us who are praying people, we know how to seek the face of God in good times and in bad. We know where to go when there's no hiding place down here, as the Negro spiritual says. They knew that God would conceal them under the cover of God's tent. God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in the time of trouble. And then as we move on, we see the confirmation. The psalmist says, now my head is lifted up above my enemies all around me. Have you been there?